Hello everybody, and welcome back to another short mini-series with Process Pat. This week we're going to talk about metrics, and we're going to talk about a culture that can maximize the value out of those metrics to yourself as a Scrum Master, a product owner, to your team, to your stakeholders, to your management, and to your overall leadership. And if you're sitting at home and you're wondering whether or not you can do this at your job, I want you to take a step back and reflect, and I want you to ask yourself this question. Do we have a trust or a fear-based culture? And I can get into the two of these things real quick to help you understand what I mean between the two of these, because if you have a trust-based culture, it's going to make things a lot easier, and the value of those metrics are actually going to mean something. But if you have a fear-based culture, then those metrics are going to be manipulated and you're not going to be able to use them for anything positive at all. So what is a trust-based culture? Well, I can give you some indications so that you can assess whether or not you believe your culture is trust-based or fear-based. First thing you look for is how failure is treated. Now, I can tell you that at any company, the most innovative companies are not afraid to fail fast, to celebrate those failures, to share them with others so that others don't continue to repeat those failures. And when you have a culture that celebrates, understands failure, and encourages it amongst your teams, you're going to find that from a metric standpoint, teams feel much more comfortable producing true metrics because that they know that they are going to be used for the betterment of the team and for continuous improvement opportunities, and to drive conversation that will really attack and identify the root cause of potential negative trends or potential issues across the team. And they won't be used for bad. So when you are thinking about your team, think about what's the team's sentiment. Are they happy to talk about failures amongst their leadership? Or do they tend to try to hide them and to make excuses? That'll be a red flag that will help you to identify whether or not your teams feel like they are trusted amongst your culture. And then the opposite of that is a fear-based culture. Now, what is a fear-based culture? Well, it's the exact opposite of a trusting culture. And this is when the team, the management, your leadership are leveraging metrics and they are using them for performance indicators. They are using and rolling them into your goals. They are using them to justify whether or not you are doing a good job at the company. And it tends to basically what's going to end up happening is that the teams are going to end up manipulating those metrics so that they are not useful at all to anybody. What happens when teams start to manipulate their numbers? Well, you have a false sense that the team is doing well. And that's not good for anybody. You'll see that failures will occur, and the first thing that teams will do is swipe them under the rug. No one else will get the opportunity to learn from those. So in a fear-based type of a culture, you'll see that metrics are being used for personal performance reviews rather than for continuous improvement opportunities, celebrating successes, learning from those failures so that teams can continue to innovate and fail fast. And you will see that if you have a fear-based culture, your teams are going to they're going to stagnate and they're not going to be able to move forward as fast as other teams that are in a trusting culture will be able to. Now, if you do have a trust-based culture, that's awesome because there's a lot that you can do with the metrics that your teams generate because they aren't scared for them to show negative trends, and they can take those as an opportunity to learn and improve real quick. So let me talk through a few metrics that have helped me that I think you can take advantage of, so as long as you do have that trust-based culture in place today. So these metrics, the first one is throughput against plan. This is a consistency metric, and when your teams are new and they're forming, or you've had some radical change recently, it's important to develop a little bit of consistency. And all this metric is doing is leveraging the inputs, which are your velocity and your capacity planning. Team commits to a certain number of story points, and this is measuring your total throughput, planned and unplanned work against the total number of points that your team had committed to at the beginning of the sprint. Now, the second is plan complete percentage. So throughput against plan, that first one, TAP, is a consistency-based metric. plan complete percentage is a predictability metric. So once you've developed a sense of consistency, then your teams can aim, all right, let's plan, let's make sure that we are executing against our plan. From sprint to sprint, we're able to measure of the original plan, how much of that were we actually able to get done. This will help you identify a lot of volatility that may occur. It may help you understand the amount of unplanned work that's coming and impacting your planned work and your strategic work. And it may help you to conduct root cause analysis and maybe go and look at where these escalations are being generated so that you can target the source of those and reduce the number of escalations, which will also have a net positive impact on your customer base. The next is cycle time. Cycle time is very important. It's measuring the flow of work from a to-do state to a done state. So a good Scrum Master, a good RTE will analyze the time it takes for that work to flow through each one of the columns in your standard workflows so that you can identify bottlenecks and efficiency opportunities by targeting some of the problems that are slowing work as it goes through that specific pipeline. The next two are velocity and capacity. These numbers really only matter to the teams themselves. If they go up or they go down, if you can't speak to a specific reason why they went up or down, then it really doesn't matter. So velocity is averaging throughput over a period of time so that the teams can leverage that along with capacity planning to make sprint commitments. But beyond that, there's no real use for it. The next is sprint burn downs. Again, the indication here, if you see that teams aren't burning, they're just burning everything down at the very end, maybe not progressing things through across the workflow throughout the sprint, or maybe they're getting caught somewhere and they're unable to complete them until the end, or maybe the user stories are too large to complete in an iterative sense. So watching this will help lead you to potential issues that you could solve for your team. The next are quality metrics. We all know what the quality metrics are. Your bug backlog. This may be escape defects. There are hundreds of different quality metrics that you can track that can make sure that you are delivering higher quality code to production that will impact your customers in a positive way. Last one that I have noted here of the important metrics are MTTR, mean time to resolve. This is looking at your escalations. I talked about it a little bit above, but this is identifying how long it takes for you to resolve an issue for a customer once it's identified. So from the time it's identified to the time that it's complete and pushed back out to that customer, making sure that you are finding efficiencies in this specific workflow will really have a net positive impact on your end users and your customer base. So focus on MTTR. Now, I intentionally skipped the release burn up because I think that this is something that we could spend a little bit of time on. These are incredibly important, especially if you're measuring features or epics over a period of time within maybe a program increment or a larger time box. If you're able to plan work out in these time boxes like a program increment, and you can start to track the burn up over time, it helps you to identify and to conduct risk mitigation much earlier on in the process. As a leader, I think that this is important because rather than waiting till the end and deferring functionality, I can be very proactive and I can say, all right, there's a risk to this being completed based off of when we wanted it to enter the market. So I can be proactive and reduce scope and focus on MVP and that continual feedback as an example. So I think that release burn-ups can be very impactful as long as they're used the right way. The last, really just in conclusion, there are a ton of different metrics that can be used and they can be extremely valuable if you have the right culture and you're using them for the right things. If you're not, they're invaluable, or they're not valuable at all to anybody. And so it's very important before you go, you run, you take these ideas about the metrics to generate, make sure you're self-aware, you understand the culture, that they can handle it. And if so, by all means, leverage some of these metrics because they will go a long way in you helping your teams to continuously improve, to identify the root cause of problems that they are experiencing from sprint to sprint, and overall to reach a state of high performance. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Please make sure that you're liking and subscribing, and tune into the next one that we have. Thanks, everybody. Bye.